Stopping by with Bill King from Nashville Sports Radio, hosting 6 to 9 Monday through Friday, and the king of college football talk. Good afternoon, Bill. What'd you think of the Money Grab Invitational Finals yesterday?
Went pretty much as I anticipated. Tough matchup for Notre Dame. Needed to be a grinder. Needed to be in the teens, low 20s. And also would need benevolence, gifting from Ohio State. And Ohio State was not playing that way heading into that game. I wasn't shocked. Now, I'll give Notre Dame credit, valiantly clawing back in it, however they did, and made it closer than the game probably was, but stylistically about what I anticipated.
Hey, Bill, when you look at this Ohio State roster, who do you think is going to be the best pro? Is it Caleb Downs? Is it Jack Sawyer? Maybe it's the freshman, Jeremiah Smith. But when you look at that kind of roster, and there's a lot of NFL talent on there, who do you think has the brightest future?
There's so many of them, but I think Jeremiah Smith is legendary. All those other players are really good. Caleb Downs is a ridiculous true sophomore safety. But I think Jeremiah Smith is legendary. That's the kind of ability he has. I would go with him, but I think Downs is the first rounder a year from now. And Jack Sawyer is a good-looking pro. JTT, number 44, is a good-looking pro. Both their running backs are pros. No doubt about it. Both those guys are playing the NFL. But the receiver is unlike any freshman receiver that I possibly have ever seen. And Randy Moss is the best receiver I've ever seen, period. And he signed with Notre Dame. They couldn't get him in because he got in trouble, went down to Florida State, got in trouble, and then ended up over at Marshall. Of course, he had an incredible career, but I really didn't get to see him as a true freshman.
What was your thought then? Because on that, and I know it's the last play kind of the game, and so I didn't understand how you leave one-on-one, and it wasn't even really a one-on-one. It was a soft one-on-one because it was a zone blitz, and we can pick it apart if you want to. But what would you have liked to have seen Notre Dame do? Like, don't you the first thing you got to do is take away what their best player is, because that was just too easy.
Now, you're talking about on the very last play of the game and Notre Dame had the ball?
No, when Ohio State threw it, it was fourth down, and they're trying to keep the ball, and Will Howard's running down the field, with his arms. You thought it was going to be a touchdown, and they go that zone blitz, and the corner's just bailing the whole time?
Yeah, I just think for the first time Notre Dame was in a game where the matchups were horrible. And I'm not sure. Al Golden's a friend of mine, and he has done a fantastic job there. And I hope he stays. You've got a lot of NFL options. But I just think they got overmatched and ran out of ideas. And I've not seen a team run on them like that either. As much as I felt like Ohio State would win that game, I didn't think they'd run on them like that.
Well, what about the other side of this, too? Notre Dame's fewest rushing yards on the year was 117 in the Louisville game, and then in their semifinal against Penn State. They ran for 53 against Ohio State. And it wasn't a bunch of sacks. Like, this wasn't sack adjusted. It was just 2 sacks. That's where Ohio State won the game.
Yeah, they won the game there, and I'm pretty sure that Jim Knowles didn't respect Notre Dame's passing game. Now, I'll say this. They threw it for like 240 yards, and Jaden Greathouse had a bunch of yards. He's a young receiver that's come on for him. But I think if you've got the personnel, you're gonna match up with Notre Dame. You do not respect their passing game, and I think that's what we saw in stopping the running game.
I liked what Ohio State did going and getting the Big 12 Player of the Year at Kansas State, who had won a championship. They went and got Will Howard, and you could see that. Notre Dame, they got Sam Hartman. Now they got Riley Leonard. They're kind of getting veteran quarterbacks. Who's going to be the quarterbacks for these two teams next year?
At Notre Dame, there's a veteran named Steve Angeli who's really played well when he's gotten a chance. I think they'll give him the ball first, but C.J. Carr is their future. That's the grandson of Lloyd Carr, former Michigan coach, and he's a big-time talent. He eventually, I think, next year will have that ball. And then there's a young kid from California there who's a freshman right now at Ohio State, who actually signed and got to Alabama's campus. And then when Nick Saban retired, a week later, he was out of there and transferred to Ohio State. And he is probably the quarterback of the future there. It'll be a good battle. Both will be really interesting battles in the spring. But I think the young kid out of California who's up there at Ohio State, he's better. He's a better quarterback than what they got there right now. Better versatile quarterback.
You know, I think Matt's been pushing this for a while, and I think he's absolutely right about it. What a brilliant decision by Quinshon Judkins to go from Ole Miss to Ohio State. You can look at the money, and maybe the money was a big difference from one place to the other, and maybe there were some issues in the locker room that were part of it, but this is a guy that carried the ball about 100 times fewer than he did at Ole Miss, in more games as well. And if I'm thinking as a running back that's potentially got a future in the NFL, I don't know if I want the ball 25 to 30 carries a game like he was getting at Ole Miss. And you end up, I mean, look how fresh he was yesterday. You're not going to look that good if he was a workhorse the way that he was at Ole Miss. It ends up being a really smart play by him, not just because of the championship.
It worked out as well as it could. Now, at Ole Miss, he got there as a lowly rated 2-star whatever, and immediately was fantastic. So he got more money, asked for more money, got more money, played his sophomore year, really didn't have the same kind of year. I don't know if you call it a sophomore slump, but he was injured a little bit. He was gimpy a little bit, and he returned 2 to 3 times for more money. And at some point, Lane Kiffin just said, I've had enough. And you're right. I mean, he's a big-time talent, a team that is as good as Ohio State came after him. And Alabama and Auburn wanted him, too. He's from a tiny town in Alabama. They made a run at him. So he had a lot of leverage there. But you're right. It was however it happened, and I just explained it, it turned out perfectly.
You know, I heard those 2 quarterbacks from Penn State. I mean, 2 running back from Penn State are going to come back, and you're talking about Caleb Downs is coming back at Ohio State, and you just look at the talent they have on that team. They're going to have the best receiver in the country. Is Ohio State the favorite to win it again next year, to go back to back? I mean, are you maybe buying into Penn State being a little bit more veteran group? Who would be your way too early, like top 3 in college football right now?
I think that Ohio State's got a lot to replace. Now, I couldn't think of it. Julian Sayin is the young quarterback out of California who I think will be their starter in Columbus. But I think replacing Sawyer and JTT and some players like that who have been around is going to be difficult. I think they're a playoff team. I don't know that I would pick them to win it again. I think Texas is going to be fantastic. It's the Arch Manning era. They have recruited incredibly well. They have portaled incredibly well. I would have Texas in my first 3. Probably have Oregon somewhere in my first 3, and probably Georgia. I think Georgia has so much to motivate. Kirby Smart motivating that team, and they have ridiculous recruiting classes, and they're getting the incredible wide receiver out of Southern Cal, a player they did not have this last year. I would have Georgia somewhere there.
Bill, let's finish on well, let's start it this way. Wisconsin and Miami haven't played football since 2018. They may be meeting in the courtroom at some point soon with this incredible story about Xavier Lucas, who apparently has managed to transfer away from Wisconsin to Miami after signing a revenue share agreement, and the Badgers wouldn't let him into the transfer portal. But Miami signed him anyway. The NCAA apparently has said, that's just fine. You know, there's no rule that limits this. The Big Ten is on Wisconsin's side, and this just sounds like something that is headed straight for the courtroom.
And will set a precedent, I would assume. Not sure the way it's going to turn out. I would lean towards they let him free and let him go, but I don't know that. This is a little bit different case. Now, everybody tampers. But I've never seen a situation, at least publicly, like this one. Well, it's very unclear how it would turn out.
Yeah, it's just because it comes outside of the portal, as if the portal doesn't exist, and it's right. It's not even real free agency because Wisconsin had signed him to a contract, and you expect that to bind him to the school. So, we're in this place where we wonder, are we going to do a 10-day window for football transfers, and that's all throughout the year? But then what about the other 355 days? Because that's what this case could also be about.
Yeah, the new idea is maybe move to a January 2nd to the 12th. I don't think that's going to pass. I don't think the players like it. Not that they get everything they want, even though they do get a lot of what they want, but I think it's going to be more lengthy than that. But what people have got to understand is that portal is just the official time frame. You can players announce all the time they're leaving. Or have you ever noticed, I was talking about that on the show this morning, reporters at all these various recruiting sites or internet sites, a guy outside of the window will transfer and they will report he put himself in the portal. I don't know why they say that. You can't put yourself in the portal unless it's in that window, but you can announce anytime you want to.
Well, now that the football season is over, it's now it's not the end of the football. So now it's the beginning of the non-playing portion of the season, Bill. But Here's the thing. You've never had a shorter non-playing portion of the season in college football history. This will be the shortest of all time.
Oh, I have to think about that. Yeah, no, you're right about that. I've said this on the show, and I think I've said it to you guys. For the first time ever, this season it dragged too long. Now, I was eager for last night, and I was right there drooling for the game, as usual. But this is the first time I felt like, okay, this is going too long. Now, I don't know what the answer is. Start earlier in August. You're still going to have the same length probably, just end it earlier, but they've got to come up with something.
It's an interesting, I think perspective you're coming from here, Bill, because you've talked to it. You don't watch the NFL. You don't really pay that much attention to it. And the narrative that people are going with the college football playoff and why there might not have been as much hyper buzz as you would have expected if this whole thing happened on New Year's Day is they're trying to get away from the NFL playoffs. But I don't really think you care much about the NFL playoffs, and you're still saying that the season went too long.
I wouldn't even, other than all my boys have it on throughout the house, I wouldn't even know the playoffs are on. I don't watch it, and I'm a college guy, a high school guy as well. But, yeah, and guys, I haven't looked, but have the TV numbers come out? I mean, here's the other thing. You went head-to-head with an inauguration. Now, I understand that's just once every 4 years, but that's not good planning either.
That's a good point. I want to move it away from that. Probably a good idea. Yeah. Presidential inauguration is a very big deal. College football playoff championship is too, just not that big. Bill, appreciate you. Thanks as always for stopping by.
Guys. Thank you, guys.
BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college basketball to NHL and UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here.